Hello everyone, this is Sam, and in today's video we get to preview and test the build template system that will be introduced alongside the October 29th patch. There's a lot to be said about such a system, especially when we have had a third-party software delivering an equivalent feature to the player base for years. In order to make sure that this review is objective and thorough, we will be comparing both takes on the feature on every single aspect they have and their impacts on both the player experience as well as the wallet, because these templates do not come out cheap. And we will be revealing this right after the intro. 1. Pricing. The build templates feature is separated into 3 different elements, each priced differently, because simplicity is for chumps. The build template itself comes at 300 gems per slot, with 3 out of 6 being given right off the bat. The gear template is priced at 500 gems per slot, with 2 out of 6 being available on login after the patch hits. These are soulbound, meaning that you need to get the extra slot on each and every single one of your characters if you wish to retain some sort of QOL close to what Arc DPS allowed previously. The account-bound build storage allows up to 24 builds to be stored, with 3 being the base at release and another 3 being handed out for free in the gem store, so remember to grab them. Any storage bought after that will cost you 500 gems for a 3-pack. Looking at these costs, we can calculate that it will cost you a grand total of 2.9k gems to max out the character and 3000 gems to max out the account-wide storage. Provided you play all 9 classes, you're looking at 29.1k gems to deck out your entire account. For good measure, here are the estimates you'd pay in euros or dollars on a character and account basis. $40 per character, with an extra of 300 gems left over, and $365 for a whole account, the prices being the same in euros. In gold, this gives us about 1.1k gold per character and a little bit under 11,000 for the whole account. Of course, this is a form of horizontal progression, however this is not necessarily the way I would have gone about it. 2. The alternative. Character slots. The instant solution we could look at is no other than character slots. For 800 gems, you'd be getting a viable replacement to spending 2.9k gems on a single character. This, of course, implies you have enough scrolls or tomes of knowledge to raise the character's level to 80, but also enough testimonies of heroics to unlock the needed specializations, provided you earn the expansions. This is the reason why I wish to call this a viable and not an optimal plan. Having to swap characters for builds can be a hassle to a few of us, and as such doesn't constitute a real quality alternative to the rather aggressive pricing we are seeing on the build templates. 3. Soul binding and account binding. This update really emphasizes the value of account-bound gear to the max, making it a major incentive to acquire either ascended gear or at least exotic gear that isn't soulbound. Indeed, with the alternative being spare characters, moving gear across the account to circumvent the low starting amount of templates will be the go-to at first glance. I strongly recommend making use of the ongoing Halloween event to grab the lunatic gear recipes, as that is cheap, stat-selectable, account-bound exotics. 4. Legendary gear. This discrepancy between soulbound and account-bound treatment extends even further than simply forcing a choice of gear onto you. You might have thought that owning the best kind of gear available in the game, aka the legendary gear, would prevent you from suffering from the template system. Well, you are gravely mistaken, as legendary gear value would be dropping dramatically with this update. While the gear type allows you to select any stats and has been of great value to players so far, both in matters of gear cost and inventory space, this update completely dwarfs all this utility that the gear previously held. Indeed, being limited to 3 build templates and 2 gear templates, up to 6 of each, means that you won't ever make use of the legendary gear's ability to swap freely between stats unless you do so by hand and stop relying on templates altogether. Even worse, since the gear is taken from the inventory to be used in the template, legendary gear has less of a positive impact on your build than ascended gear does. With a swapping speed that is vastly similar between the two on a 1-second cooldown, we can conclude that there is no redeeming feature whatsoever for legendary gear. 5. runes and sigils. This new system further pushes the value of sigils and runes down. By swallowing your equipment faster than I can swallow a sub 30, it ensures that your sigils and runes will remain slotted inside of the templates and you'll actually have to spend an entire template just to swap sigils or runes around. On the bright side of life, however, casual build makers will be delighted as Tyria is slowly adapting to the one-size-fits-all mentality. On the legendary side of life, it means that you will still need to have all your upgrades in your inventory, ruining the only upside brought forward by the template, that is to say, storage space. Lastly, having to spend an entire equipment template on swapping upgrades also means that there is even less incentive to ever make legendary sigils and runes unless you have money to waste, but in that case, you might as well donate it to me. 6. Competitive game modes. The build templates aren't tied to a game mode, making it possible for you to bring superior rate DPS rotations directly into your roaming team. The downside, however, is that you will face scarcity very fast, due to the fact that you have to reserve slots from your 6 templates for the competitive game modes. As far as restrictions go, they apply to you in the same way as they did with Arc DPS, except that you can now change builds in PvP before the match starts and in World vs World as long as you aren't in combat. This includes in areas that aren't owned by your server. 7. The Infusions. For this part, I am not quite sure what the question would be, as if you have Infusions, you're probably rich enough to buy the 6 slots. However, you should be aware that slotting Infusions within one type of gear means that you can't get them back in another. Swapping builds around while having Infusions that are supposed to go in and out of your legendary armor is the only way to play around Infusions in your inventory and within your build templates. Overall, if I wanted to make a conclusion on the impact of the build templates compared to Arc DPS, I would say that the implementation is actually very well done. Having key binds to be able to swap between the different build and gear templates make this a very pleasing experience. However, having only 6 of each, that is to say in the end 6 different builds as gear and traits are mostly tied together, I would say that this is much less interesting to the hardcore player than Arc DPS could have been previously. Having the opportunity to swap between any form of gear and traits across all the game modes within just a few clicks in the Arc DPS UI held much more value to me than these build templates ever will. However, to the more casual players, this is most definitely a godsend, and the pricing, while very aggressive, still remains something that makes sense overall, as it allows you to pick the character slot as a viable alternative. Now, this is pretty much all I have to say on the current update, and the rest of the details of it will probably be uncovered later by players testing the system in and out. This is just a hot take on the situation, and I really wish to thank Arenanet for giving me the opportunity to make it. And I also wish to thank all the people watching the channel, participating in the comment section, joining the Discord, overall being amazing people. I wish every single one of you some happy gaming and to have fun.